I'm back at the Studioszene booth where everything worth knowing is being told. And we have two guests. I'm very happy to introduce Kazuya, I had to do it, Nagai of the Nagoya University of Arts, and Thorsten Weigelt of the University der Künste Berlin, who've come to us today to speak about microphone placement comparison, which is, I would say, the most basic question if you record music, is to find out how do you capture what's there, and you've come up with a specific project. Can I ask how you guys found each other, how you started this project?
So thank you so much. And so I am Kazuya Nagae. I am an associate professor in Nagoya University of Arts. So, and why we did? So I stayed in 2012 in Berlin. I guest audit to the UDK Tonmeister Ausbildung, Thorsten class.
Yeah. So he found me, not I found him. And so later Kazuya had the idea to make a quite big project together as a complement to the very famous book of Jürgen Meyer, which is exactly about our topic, about how musical instruments radiate sound. And so always we are faced with the question where to place the mic to get the sound what we want to get. And this book is really interesting, very good to read. I think every Tonmeister should read it, but it doesn't sound. You can't hear it. And so we wanted to add a web page that everybody who is interested in sound radiation, how the position of microphones influence the timbre of the instruments, that they can find information in the web where they can listen to it and not only read it and maybe then get an imagination how could it sound.
Yes.
We wanted to show how it really sounds. And so this was our motivation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, production of sound recording for 15 orchestra instruments to make this difference and hearable for instead people working and studying the field of recording arts as a supplement to the worthwhile and
Irreplaceable book.
book by Jürgen Meyer. Eh?
Yes, and
Yes.
we are focused on classical orchestral instruments, so no drum set or whatever.
Yes.
But I think the only main instruments with which we couldn't record was the harp and the grand piano. That would be a total different thing. One first question was what we want to do. Do we want to make a laboratory recording, or do we want to work more in a practical way, like you record instruments in your normal daily work?
Yes.
So we wanted to make this recording in a concert hall instead of an anechoic room,
Yes.
and of course important stereo recording, not
Yes.
mono. Because the stereo listening, of course, is very important, how we hear timbre and all those things.
Yes. About the recording.
Yeah, this was done at concert hall of University of the Arts. That's a concert hall from the 50s. It was the first concert hall built after the Second World War in Berlin, many years before Berlin Philharmonic Hall was opened. So Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra played quite a few times in
Yes.
those halls. And this is the reverberation characteristic. So we have a mid reverberation of 1.5 seconds. It's important to know this because the hall influences the sound, and it's important to know what this recording can show and what it can't show. It's not a laboratory, not recorded in an anechoic room.
Yes, we used an 24 dPa 4006 and 4 dPa 4006C and 2 shops BLM 03C. And then this and RME mixer C and MADI and connected to Labo Daris and using the DAW Sequoia 48 kHz 24-bit recording.
Yeah, and as everybody knows, it's very critical what microphone setup to choose. We wanted to record in a realistic way, and in the classical music, probably the AB systems is the most popular, especially with Omni microphones. So this was the logical choice to choose AB systems with omnidirectional microphones. They don't have proximity effect and quite a few of other things. And just out of interest, we used also a PZM pair in front of the musicians. It's this one here.
Yellow.
To avoid the floor reflections. Whoop.
Yes, this yellow point.
Okay.
Yes.
So we did a little video which very good can introduce this project.
Sound engineers and music producers choose different directions of microphone placement in relation to the instrument, depending on the style, instrument and recording space in order to achieve the desired timbre. The horn, for example. Do we record it from the front? Or from the back? Do we want or need the sound of the bell? There are major differences, as can be heard with the violin. We have created a website to compare the differences in timbre and other sound parameters depending on the microphone positions. 15 instruments such as violin, viola, cello, flute, snare drum and many more. These were recorded in parallel from 14 different directions with AB arrangements. On the website you can compare and hear the sound of all microphones with just one click. The recordings were made in January 2018 in the concert hall of the Berlin University of the Arts. Of course, these comparisons can only be an example. For each particular recording situation, the best or most appropriate microphone placement must be found over and over again. We hope that this website will be helpful to students and professionals and can support them in their daily work. In addition, we collect statistics about the user's preferences concerning the sound of the different positions. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback.
Yeah, that's the project more or less. So maybe we can discuss a few points. And So as you can see, the basic microphone setup is a kind of a hemisphere around the instrument. All microphone pairs have the same distance to the instrument. This distance was slightly adjusted for every instrument. So for example, for the double bass, maybe a little closer, for the violin a little further away, but all microphones always the same distance. This was more or less the same geometry always. We added to the main orchestra instruments quite a few extra instruments like bass clarinet or piccolo flute, and
Bass
what
clarinet.
more? English horn,
Yeah.
and yeah, this is already set.
Yes. This is calculation for the distance.
Yeah, in this case for double bass, obviously. The geometry was slightly adjusted for every instrument, so you probably can see, I try to avoid the feedback. This is here a little different than here. So we have slightly adjusted to get more interesting points, probably for flute, little different than for oboe or whatever. And we also recorded for standing and sitting positions of the musicians. Yeah, every instrument we recorded a few orchestral studies of different style and different character.
Yes.
And but it's not always very easy to find one point where to measure the distance. So what is the central point of a set of 4 timpani, or what is the one point of a double bass or whatever. So many things which could be done in a different way.
Yes.
So let's probably look for one example for the violin.
Yes.
And let's try to connect this with the book of Jürgen Meyer. Can we go once back to that one?
Here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, here we
Yes.
have it. So we could compare B and C, and F and A. A would be probably the direction for a first violin group in the orchestra setup. F would be in the German orchestral seating,
Yes.
the main direction how the violins project into the room. So we could probably compare A, B, C, and F now in the web page.
Yes,
and
I
as a
changed it
user,
here.
you can direct interact with this. You can choose which microphone pair you want to listen, and the web page directly plays the chosen microphone.
Yes. Now we play A. More power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the main idea, that you as a user can direct influence what you want to hear. Normally you can load one example and then load another example, but you can't directly interact with the web page.
Yes.
That was not easy to find a programming for this, but it works quite good at the end.
Yeah.
Everything is only HTML5. The same we could also do for the horn. We could listen to this already in the short video. It's always the question where to place it. we have the D and A point in the horizontal. The T point would be a typical point where to place a spot microphone in the orchestra, for example, and it's possible to listen to all those things. Maybe in advance, or if you don't like the sound, you have a good clue how to change the microphone position.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, very short example, but it's repeated if you don't stop it. All those recordings were like a little production, so we had musical producers, which were normally Tonmeister students, and sound engineers, and everything what you would do in a normal recording situation with takes and everything.
Orchestra studies partitura, ne? Yes. Production and questions. So editing. So we did editing.
Yeah, of course, not too, quite a lot.
Yes.
There are a few questions, of course, which arose more or less during we worked. So, for example, should we level match the different pairs, or should we leave them as they are? Okay, I do it like this. At the end, we decided not to level match them. Otherwise, we would have changed the level of the reverberation sound. So now the level of the reverb sound is more or less always the same, but the direct to reverberation relation, this changed quite a lot depending of the position. And the same question also with left-right balances.
Yes.
We tried to balance this quite good, but it's not always perfectly done and not easy to do it.
I did 1 dB or the 1.5 dB is maximum changing.
Yeah. Okay, but for example, the horn, for example, projects a little bit more to the right side, so there must be a tiny little imbalance between left and right if you record it from the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so web interpretation. So to use HTML5 audio to play multiple tracks like a DAW. So and this is an HTML5 program. So my universities and clever student and Kobayashi and designed this program. So this JPEG files and this is a map, image map, HTML imaging generator. So we use it. So and then we programmed and some like this.
So of course it's to discuss what can be shown and not. Yes, this can be shown, the change of the timbre independence from mic position, very different direct to reverberant ratios depending of the position of the microphone pair, which are also frequency dependent. This has to do with the frequency directivity factors of the instruments. So all this has some kind of general validity, but at the same time it's not sufficient for all cases you could face. We have only one instrument. You can listen to only to one instrument at a time, and for example violins, for example, or other string instruments, they project very individually every single instrument
Yes.
again. So you have to find for every recording situation, for every hall, for every instrument, for every musician, again, the best position or the position where you get the sound from what you want. I think it's always difficult to say this is the best position.
Yes.
Normally, it's only one option of very good positions. And the same is also true for the distance, as we could imagine here with the clarinet. It's really dependent where you place the microphone, in which distance to the instruments, you get very different frequency response from the instruments. This would need more and more and more microphones to show also this. And of course, other positions in relation to the instruments would also have been possible.
Yes.
Yeah, and so we also have the subjective evaluation.
Yes. Now we and start to the subject evaluation as preference. And if you have a time, and please visit my website, and please listen every instrument and which position you like. So we would like to listen your opinion. So and for example, this place V, and if you like, and you click like is what you are listening device and some studio monitor or some computer speaker headphone, and what's your job, and please listen your opinion, and please vote it. So this is a sample of the photo result, and so this is by program of our website. So CVS files output and date, time, position, and the loudspeaker type, job, and country, and the IP address. So please visit our website and soundmedia.jp/NUA UDK. Please vote for your preference.
Yes. So what could we do in the future? Maybe we also could do some frequency analysis graphics that we could connect and that you also can compare between them. And one idea is the grand piano.
Like
but
this.
This is would be very useful, but it's a headache to plan it. How many mics we need? 200? I don't know. And how to organize them. Would be really, really interesting. But
I would like to try it.
We'll see what brings the future.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you have any questions or comments, please.
Well, thank you, Kazuya and Thorsten. I have a couple questions, if I can ask. I understand that you were basing your project on Jürgen Meyer's book and that you set up your mics evenly to have comparison. Did you think about direct miking options? Was that something that was ever thought of? Just sheer interest in this case.
So we try to find a main microphone distance, because this is the normal case where you use stereo AB systems and where you always look for the spot microphones. You more often look for a very specific sound which you could add to one main microphone.
Correct, yes.
And so our main focus at the moment was a main microphone distance, which is within the critical distance of the hall, but not too close.
Do you have after having worked on this wonderful project, do you have personal preferences? Is there something to the effect of, oh, I prefer the direction with, like with the horn, it was more intense going backwards, if you will. The strings seemed to be more intense as they were radiating from the strings towards the right as you were. I mean, I'm not saying anything's better. I'm wondering, do you think, is there anything you gathered from your research where you went like, this is generally something I like better than something else. This is what I'm going to do in the future?
I wouldn't say I like this better than this, but I was surprised by a few things. For example, I was surprised by the much bigger difference between left and right direction for the cello, for example. I did know there is a difference, but that it's so big, I just didn't realize before.
Is there a consequence you can take out of this insight when you record an entire orchestra?
There are always consequences.
No. I mean,
yes,
is there one you could tell me?
If
You don't have to. I'm just wondering. I mean, this is a wonderful project under very controlled circumstances. I'm just wondering if there are any consequence you could offer within the much more convoluted environment of 50 people sitting there and making noise.
I think this consequence everybody should find by himself, more or less. This is a complement, an addition to experiences we did before, and this could help in the beginning, but also later in your job to find consequences. There is no direct consequence at the moment which where I could say, okay, this I learned this and I do this now total different, because there was a learning experience already before of not only 10 years, more years.
And my last question is, do you think you're gonna expand on your project, for example, by using different microphones? Setting up the same project again with a different array of things, or XY setups or whatever?
For me, I wouldn't do it once more. I would be much more interested now to make the same for different instruments, like for grand piano.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your preparation, your hard work, and for your time. We really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.